Thanks again. Glad to see you there. So we're jumping from smart cities and IoT to the future of food. So I hope people are hungry, because you probably have a very interesting story.
I have a very, varied background, I guess. And I didn't prepare anything here. I'm the kind of person that kind of wings it all the time. So I'll kind of just start at the beginning, and I'm hoping that along my story of where I come from and what I've done and where I'm at today, what I'm trying to do today, I hope that the viewers here can sort of correlate that to what all the other speakers have said, and pick up some of those traits, because everyone has said so many valuable things that are important as you grow up as a human being, let alone in your career. I'll start with a quote that has kind of stuck with me my whole life. One was from my grandpa. He's always like, you got to hustle, right? It was that simple. Life is a hustle. And then the other one, when I was a little bit older, when I think I was 19, I read in a book somewhere, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, the president here 100 years ago, said, determination, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was, determination outweighs genius and talent. And that's something that sort of stuck with me, because as a teenager, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I grew up on a farm in Michigan, which, if you're not familiar, that's a state in the Midwest of America, between the cities of Detroit and Chicago. Okay, so right in the middle of the country. It's an agricultural farm, so corn, wheat, soybeans. I didn't grow up in a cooking household necessarily. Very generic American fare of the 80s. And so cooking was not really an option that I ever thought of as a career. And by the time I was 16, 17 years old, my dad was asking me, like, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to college? You're going to work on the farm? Really pushing me to, like, hey, you're kind of behind the ball here. You should be thinking about your future a little more than you are. And, I really had no answer for him. I was kind of embarrassed at the time, because I said, I knew somewhere that curiosity, one of the speakers here said, be curious. I think everyone has said that, be curious about the world that we live in. And, most of the speakers here, we grew up pre-internet, right? So being curious was at best maybe an encyclopedia, or magazines, right? National Geographic. That was how we learned about the world, or maybe a few classes we took. So, teenagers today, and I have 5 kids. I have 3 teenagers, and then a 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. Okay, so I'm right in the thick of it. I see how kids are developing today in real time, and how we are as adults, how we've adapted with COVID, with what we're doing right now today. I'm actually sitting in a field in Michigan right now, and I was in New York City yesterday, and I drove back. So, I mean, this is the world we live in today. It's very back and forth all the time. I grew up on a farm. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I ended up working in a restaurant. A friend kind of wrote me into doing a Friday night shift. The chef was going to pay me $50 in cash. I said, great, I'll take the money. And I fell in love with the restaurant environment, the people, the energy, the craftsmanship, the artisticness that is inside of a chef, the banter, the back and forth between waiters and cooks, diners, customers, managers, owners. It was like somewhere between a theater and a circus, and a pirate ship at times. So I was enthralled by this. And the more I sort of paid attention to, cooking, and this is in the late 90s, early 2000s. This is right when Food Network was coming on TV. So cooking was sort of becoming popular in America, which was in the backwaters for a very long time. And so I started paying attention to things, and I said, wow, like this could be an avenue for me to see the world. And I said, no matter where I go in the world, there's food, right? And there's people that I can learn from, no matter, literally. And we all know that food is the one thing. I've published a couple of white papers recently, and it's like, we can take away everything that we have in this world today, from this Zoom application in my hand right now to electricity to oil. Within a matter of minutes or hours, we're going to need food and water, right? It's the one thing that humans cannot escape. And if everything goes down the drain, we'll have to restart and with food and water again. So it's truly the one thread that holds us all together. And up until very, very recently, really World War II, all cities, dynasties, tribal villages, uh, you know, conquering nations. Everything was was derived from natural resource, right? Food, being able to support more than just yourself, right? So that as I've grown my career in food, and I've spent over 20 years as a chef, I've really sort of moved beyond just what's on the plate, and who you're serving, but really what is that product that really holds humanity together, and where are we headed with that, right? So that's why when Marcelo and I started speaking, about the future of food, we're at a very, very interesting point. And if I could encourage any one of you listening right now, everything you've heard from the other speakers, it all ties together. There's so many opportunities in the world today. Keep your eyes wide open. I'm very much focused on food, but food touches every single industry. It's technology, it's infrastructure, it's politics, it's culture, it's arts, it's craftsmanship, it's a skilled trade, it's real estate, it's finance, it's agrotourism, it's commodity trading. It touches everything. So I find it a very big world to step into. I'll go back to being a teenager now and sort of walk through how I progressed my career and where I'm at today. Got into a restaurant. I knew right away that I wasn't going to go to college. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I thought about maybe going to culinary school, but even then I was like, I'm the type of person that I learn best by doing it, right? And it's usually the hardest way to do it. I get teased a lot still today by, I always do things the hardest way, meaning because I'm trying to figure it out as I go. And that's been my entire career. I got one job and then I kept my eyes wide open. I networked like crazy, meaning I wasn't going out and shaking hands, but I would read about people. I would write them. I would call them. I would show up at their restaurant. If I wanted to work for a famous chef, I flew to Washington, D.C., and I went to their back door by the dumpster, knocked on it until someone let me in. And, and when people kind of hear what you've done and why you're there, they'll be like, okay, you can, yeah, we'll give you a shot. They see something in you. They see ambition. They see determination, right? And that's really the only tool I've ever had in my entire career, was just sheer determination, that if I could put a goal out in front of myself, whether that was next week or 15 years from now, it was literally like I was just throwing a fishing line out there, and like I saw where that bobber was floating on the water, and all I had to do was reel it back in. And really, I wasn't reeling the bobber to myself, I was reeling myself to the bobber. And I've always taken that approach with progressing, and I've always taken it with once you get to one plateau, what's the next one? And it's not about not being content, right? You have to be content with where you're at. You have to be grateful with what you have, but you also, as a human, have to keep striving, right? Apathy is what degrades things. Apathy is what, even as a civilization, you can get too complacent, too comfortable, and that's when things start to break down on itself, right? It's not about being attacked, it's about breaking down on yourself. So staying focused, staying determined, keep your eyes wide open, and when you don't know where else to go, look for someone to help, right? That's a theme that we've heard throughout this entire all the speakers today, is really, how can you help people, right? That's what's truly going to bring you the ultimate happiness. Whether you're giving a nice plate of food to a customer, whether you're smiling to the waiter and telling them they're doing a great job, whether you're connecting cities in better water treatment plants, right? You're helping people. And that's really where you as an individual are going to find your truest sense of purpose and happiness, which is ultimately what we're all trying to get to, right? As we move our careers along and then have to start families and things like that. I toiled away in kitchens, trying to be a chef the best I could. Everyone wanted to be a French chef, the tall white hats, the crisp uniforms, fine dining, and I pursued that with everything I had. And for about 15 years, that's what I did. I worked my way from Michigan to DC up to Manhattan, and I've been in New York for the last, I don't know, I guess 18 years probably. Getting to a city like New York or DC, what really stands out is the people, right? And this is true of any city in the world, and it's also true in the countryside and in rural areas. It's all about people. But what the magnetism of a city is the people who come there, right? Now, New York is obviously is quite a remarkable place. That New York is less a representation of America as it is its own thing. New York is kind of its own entity. other Americans don't understand New York. Once you get in New York, you understand that the whole entire world is represented there in a very fair and equal way. And you can just go to a different neighborhood and be in a different country. So I thrived in New York, because I was, again, curiosity, learning, absorbing, meeting people. Jerry Powers, the speaker right before me, said, you never know who's going to come back in your life in what capacity. I cannot tell you. Just this week, I was catching up with somebody, on LinkedIn, right? He commented on something I posted. I haven't spoken to him in 7 years. And I was like, oh my goodness, I totally forgot, man. Let's catch up. We ended up this entire week. We spent 3 days together, and he took me around to all the other projects he's working on. And all of a sudden we realized that the timing was finally right for us to start working together. So keep your networks wide open, nurture your networks. And no, you're not going to talk to everybody every single day, every single week, but stay positive, always offer your help, ask for help when you need it. And you will stand out in people's minds when they come across you again in life. And that's been another great tool of mine, is I can reach out to a lot of people when I need help, and they will at least offer advice, if not something more. And I'm the same way. People reach out to me all the time, and I will do whatever I can do to help them, with whatever they're faced with at the time. And so New York, it was a great battery charger for me. I mean, it's an endless opportunity of pursuit in New York, right? And we all know that. We all know the energy that city puts out, and it's the people, right? It's not the cleanliness, it's not the people that make up the communities there. It's the people that make up the businesses there, and it's the drive and ambition, because it's more survival than it is anything else. If you're going to succeed there, you got to beat out 10 million other people that are trying to do the same job as you. So like that's where determination comes back in again. By the time I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I'd kind of hit the top of being a chef. I'd been an executive chef in Manhattan, right, for a number of years at that point. I was making a good salary, but I kind of hit that plateau, and I said, listen, there's more to this. My kids were still pretty young at the time, and I had basically sacrificed their entire childhood because being a chef is nights, weekends, holidays, and 18 hours every single day. And physically I could still do it, but I realized I'd sacrificed too much for too long, and so my life had become very imbalanced. Naively, I thought to myself, I have to do something different. I need to start my own business, thinking that like I'd be in more control of my hours and my time, which was as every entrepreneur on this panel knows, that's the last thing that happens. I also went in completely undercapitalized. This was in the year 2010. I was in a small 2-bedroom apartment with 3 kids at the time, and I was looking at all the windows in New York City, and I said, how do I get into these homes? These are the opportunities. I said, why don't people cook more in their house? And it's because shopping in New York City is extremely difficult. You don't have cars. You're so many people. The grocery stores are terrible. Customer service is terrible. And then you got to prep and clean, and your kitchens are really small. And that's why people eat out a lot, right? So I said, well, what if I could take out the shopping and the prepping part? If you take out the prepping, it's less cleanup. So I was trying to solve problems, which someone else just said on this panel. I'm like, the opportunity is in solving a problem somewhere. And that's when I said, there's my idea. There's my aha moment. There's my entrepreneur. Like that's the business I'm going to do. And I called it Cook It Kit, right? It was a little kit that you could take home and cook yourself. And I raised $120,000 between my personal savings, maxed out all my credit cards, borrowed some money from friends and family, borrowed money from employees of mine that came with me. If anyone had $100 to let me borrow, I was asking for it. And I built a kitchen. I went up in the South Bronx, took out a warehouse, and I built a kitchen. And I said, let's do this, And I said, and again, naively, I was like, no, I can always do catering. I can do this. I can do this to pay the bills while I build my prototype. And for 2 years, I lost my life. I was eating Rice Krispies every single night for dinner. I couldn't keep food on the table for the kids. Even we got kicked out of numerous apartments. And I'm trailing my family and my little kids around through all of this. And in my head, I'm like, no, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And a godsend came, and that was by means of consulting. Someone finally called me up one day and said, hey, I heard you used to do this. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, I think I can. And they said, okay, great. I'll pay you this. And I was like, wait, you're going to pay me? And so, I was like, there we go. Okay, I'll do it. I need money. And so, there, keep your eyes wide open, take opportunities that come your way. And then that led me on this road of consulting, and then consulting opened up the world to me. Right. I've done, without even trying. Right. And that's where I'm a very faithful person. I said, that's where, some of the best things in your life sometimes just come to you. And you don't have to look so hard. You don't have to try so hard. Marcelo, you said it yourself, just sit back and relax sometimes. Stop thinking so hard, and you'd be surprised at just 30-minute break what might open up in your mind, or who might just call you one day. So I ran with consulting for 8 years. And that took me from building restaurant groups to building hotels in London and Tokyo to my last project. I was with KKR, the private equity firm back in New York. After London, I came back to New York. And they hired me to build out their new world headquarters at 30 Hudson Yards. And I was well suited for the job. I had 4 floors to build out food service wise. And it was a tremendous opportunity because it challenged me. It was for the first time in my career that I worked in a corporate setting, right? Jerry had said this before, you're part of a team. All of a sudden I had a human resource department. All of a sudden I had an IT department. All of a sudden someone gave me an iPhone and a Lenovo ThinkPad, and they said, here you go. And I said, wait, like, it's all set up. My email's already on it. Like, I don't have to do these things myself. And human resource was there when I had problems. So I fell in love with corporate life. I really did. Like, I had so much support, and I'd never had that before. And it felt great. On the other side of things, like someone else said, you're a team. Sometimes all of your work goes right down the drain because the whole project gets scratched, something that you had nothing to do with. A higher decision made that, and just that's it. And so all of the work you put in, or sometimes you just can't get people on board with your idea, and you gotta take that. You're not the captain of the ship there. You are you're a sailor on the ship, and you all got to live and eat together. And so it was a huge learning curve in that way, getting to, I was still managing people. And so, I had to figure out how to get people on board with ideas in the fairest and most equitable ways, right? That the whole team benefited, most importantly, the company benefited. And that was a great learning curve. And I completed that project in January of this year. During my time there, I had my probably, if not the biggest breakthrough in my career. I got to become very close to Henry Kravis. Henry Kravis is the founder and billionaire co-founder of KKR, and I got to learn all about private equity and how it works. And I said, this is where I need to be. Now, private equity back in the day had a lot of negative connotations to it. But when I actually saw the inside of what these teams do, right? The amount of people they employ around the world, the way they take pension funds and grow them so that money goes back into teachers' pockets when they need to retire, right? It's their job. They're working for pension funds. One of the mottos at KKR was never forget who we're working for. And that meant our investors, pension funds, literally, Oregon, California, Ontario. That was the money we were trying to grow at KKR that would go back into the pockets of anyone that was in that pension fund, and also obviously many other funds. And I saw that full circle of finance come together. And I said, and then obviously they buy a lot of food companies. I said, wait a minute, this is incredible. This is where I need to be. This is where I can grow my career. I saw another plateau that I could get to. However, I don't have an MBA. I never went to college. I love corporate life. Am I best suited for it? I don't know. And at the end of the day, my job was coming to an end, meaning the project was coming to fruition. And then COVID hit. My kids and their mother ended up moving back to Michigan, and they wanted to keep me on as the chef, and I wasn't able to do it. So I had a very big choice in my life that I had to make. The kids and were moving back to Michigan. And I needed to really make that choice of do I stay in New York and try to go back and forth, or do I move back with the kids and pivot and think about what to do. And and again, that flashback of I had sacrificed so much of their life in the earlier part. And I said, listen, they're old now, right? They're my oldest is 17 and 15 and 14, and I'm like, I need to still spend time with them while I've got them. I need to still be able to influence them in some way. And so that's why I made this choice. And so now now I find myself going back and forth. I spend majority of my time in Michigan, but I do go back and forth to New York a lot. That's where all my network is. And now I am in the process of building my own company again, but this time with the finance side. So what I do now is look for restaurants, hotel, real estate development deals. I have access to lenders, private institutions, and banks. So I at the moment I work as a broker. So I literally sit between the business owner who needs financing for whatever it is to grow their business, and the sources of funding to complete those deals, which suits me really well because, it pulls from my consulting days. As Jerry said, again, like you're listening to your customer, you're listening to the problems, you're listening to what they need, and you're trying to provide a solution to that. And in this terms, it's financial help, right? Earlier, the speaker about, the lending in the Dominican Republic, everybody needs financing at some point, either personally or as a business. And so to participate in this level is getting me on that path to where I want to go with food and finance. And at the end of the day, where I really see this going off is what everybody calls now the future of food. With science and technology, it coming at such a rapid clip, and in every industry, but agriculture and food production, less waste, less energy inputs, better for the environment. Like all these things are just coming together at the most perfect confluence of time right now. Now that technology and science is ready for all of these changes, necessary changes to happen, while at the same time population growth. So I can't see his name right now, but the gentleman from Angola, right? I've got all of my attention in Africa right now, at the African countries, because that in the next 30 years, that's where all the population increase is going to be. And African countries are just going to leapfrog every single technology that the North and South America and Asia and Europe have developed over the last 50, 60 years. African nations are just going to adopt them and leapfrog and move faster. And so I'm very much paying attention to this new workforce population, these new economies that are growing in African countries, how food's going to be produced, because it's not going to be, if I could, I can turn my camera around. I'm in the middle of a field right now, but the future, in my opinion, is not soybeans, corn, and wheat. It's going to be, produce grown inside cities for that neighborhood by business owners in that neighborhood, for the community, by the community, for the community, right? That's going to be the real, the word is hyper local, which here comes Internet of Things. Here comes new job creation. Here comes new skills. At the end of the day, though, it's producing better food for more people, right? And it's better for the environment, less inputs. That's so. I'll kind of wrap it up there. That's where I'm currently at today. I don't know how long I've talked here, Marcelo. I hope I didn't go too long. But I guess to summarize, to the best of everything that's inside of me, figure out how to help people. That's what's going to make you happy. And that's where you're going to find some fuel inside of yourself. And then do not stop. Like, set your sights on it, get determined, put your head down and go forward, and don't get deterred along the way. People will, some of your closest people might cast some doubt on you. Stay focused, believe in yourself. God's got a bigger plan for you and for all of us. And, that's, just keep pushing, keep hustling, right? That's what my grandpa said. So I'll end there.